The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to another episode of the Icons of Real Estate podcast, where we highlight top professionals making waves in the industry. I'm your host, Karen Roberts, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Andy Coleman, a trailblazer in the real estate world and the number 2 ranked agent at eXp Realty. With an unmatched passion for helping renters, Andy has revolutionized the rental market. So join us as we dive into Andy's journey, his passion for rentals, and then maybe some tips for growing a thriving real estate business. So welcome to the show, Andy.
Karen, thank you so much for having me. And yes, I have done something that no other agent on the planet in the history of real estate has ever done before. I took the rental market and turned it upside down and made it such a profitable and incredible career that now I'm actually starting to, just like you said before, give tips and tricks and everything to all the agents out there that are watching and struggling with real estate. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're not having a good year this year, you're doing something really wrong, because right now in 2024 and beyond 2025, it is going to be the best time to be a real estate agent, especially if you're working rental deals.
Fantastic. So, would you like to share with the listeners what inspired you to focus on helping renters, especially when so many other agents really overlook this market?
Yeah, it was incredible, actually. So I'm still a relatively brand new agent. And by the way, my name's Andy Coleman. I'm with eXp. I'm a 4-time icon agent. And I'll get into some of my stats and numbers in a second. But I started doing real estate back in 2019. It was basically like December or so when I realized that working with buyers or trying to go after buyers and sellers wasn't working. I was having no success whatsoever. And all my mentors and team leaders and brokers were all telling me, forget the rentals, just go after the buyers and sellers. And it didn't do a damn thing for me. So I was like, you know what? There's got to be a better way. I heard these stats, 90% failure rate. It took 9 months to actually close your first deal. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I got brokerage fees. I got MLS dues. I got gas money and this and that. I don't want to be losing money every single month. So I was like, let me try to go after some of the rental market. And I tell you, I did my first deal, and I actually made an $800 commission. And in my mind, from when I actually started to try to work with the renters, it only took me a couple weeks to actually get the deal done. And this was my first deal I had ever done in real estate at all. And I was instantly hooked. But I'll tell you this, right? I see why agents are like, rentals, maybe not the best avenue, waste of time, this and that, because I'll tell you, I did about, 10 showings or so for this lovely couple. And I was like, to me, I didn't think of it as a bad thing. I thought of it as a good thing and a way for me to learn how to do it better. And then fast forward a few years later, I've gotten it down to doing sometimes no showings, sometimes 1 showing, 2 showings. I'm not doing many more showings than that. And I'm telling you, it only takes me about 1, 2, 3 hours to do a successful rental deal. And I got my average commission up to $2,000 per rental deal, and I can do up to 30 in a month. So it became a very, very profitable and fulfilling career for me, because I get to help hundreds of families. Instead of helping a buyer here and there, I'm helping hundreds of families nonstop and celebrating wins all the time. And I'm putting food on the table.
Well, there you go. And I would imagine that moving forward, these renters, when they're ready to buy, who are they going to turn to?
They're going to turn to me. It's actually funny that you just said that, because I say this all the time, right? So I say renters turn into buyers and buyers turn into sellers. And I've only been doing this, 4.5 years, 5 years or so. So I haven't really gotten to see the buyers turn into sellers yet, except for right now. So finally, it's my very first time that this is happening. And then I might have another one coming up, but a renter that I had worked with back in 2020 ended up buying a house with me in 2021. And now they're forced to move. And guess who they called to sell their house? me.
There
I got
you
a
go.
renter, I got a buyer, and I got a seller. It's literally a full circle moment.
Perfect. So, can you share the journey that led you to develop your unique systems for generating rental leads?
Yes. So I love telling this story. So basically when I started doing real estate, I was still figuring out the kinks and I wasn't really sure of how to navigate the real estate space, especially working rental deals. So in my very first year ever, I did about 50 deals, which not too shabby, right? And I think like 6 of those ended up being buyers. You don't have to wait a year, 2 years to convert renters into buyers. I'll tell you some secrets a little bit later, but you can convert renters into buyers right now. You don't have to wait. So did about, 50 deals, made about 80,000 in commission back then. And then my second year, I was like, all right, I'm on to something. Let me try to work a little bit harder, right? I had a moment with my girlfriend. It was funny, actually. It's now fiance. She kind of kicked me in the butt and was like, what are you doing? You figured out a system that works and you're only closing 50 deals a year now. Like there's a gap in the market. She saw everything that was going on. She saw my potential. So I was like, all right, let me stop turning my phone off at 5 at night. Let me stop taking off weekends. Let me actually start working really hard at this business and let me see how far I can take this. My second year of real estate, I closed 150 deals and I made $250,000 in commission.
Wow, there you go. Oh, it's lovely to hear that it was your other half that pushed you, that saw your potential and gave you that, yeah, kick up the
But
backside. Sometimes we all need that, right?
without her, I don't know if I would have like went full force. I'm not sure. And now I can give it back to agents, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but I'll tell you, it gets even better. So in my third year of real estate, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm still missing out on getting to a lot of my leads. There was like little things I wanted to perfect. I wanted to create spreadsheets. I wanted to really get organized. I created my whole clipboard and note system, my systems and processes. And I'll tell you, in my third year of real estate, I closed 250 deals. I made $510,000 in net commission.
Wow. So there you go, listeners. If you're overlooking the rental market, maybe you need to go back and have a relook. So you help a lot of agents. So what motivated you to create resources and share your expertise to help other agents succeed?
Yeah, like in the beginning, this was like I was like a vault. I was not telling anybody what I was doing because I knew, one of the biggest reasons why this worked so well and I became so successful like so fast. My motivation and my grind mentality. And I'm a very crafty, think outside the box type of person. But I knew, it was like Fizbos back 20 years ago. If you were trying to do Fizbos 20 years ago, you were making a killing because no agents were doing it. But fast forward to now, it's tough. If you call an owner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they've gotten 30 phone calls already. So it just became saturated, right? So I have the added benefit, and right now too, nobody does rentals. No agents in comparison to how many renters are out there trying to find rental properties, how many rental properties even exist. No agents are actually doing this. Didn't do it back then, are not doing it now. So there's a wide open gap in the market where there's no saturation whatsoever. So I was able to go in there and absolutely crush it without a shadow of a doubt. This is by far, and there is no close second. This is by far the best niche to actually get into, to generate leads and to close deals and help families out in the real estate market right now. And like I said, literally no close second.
So how are you doing this? What is your process?
Yes. I think I didn't even think I answered the question actually. So why? So I forgot even. So agents, right? So in the very first few years, I was, not really giving away any kind of details whatsoever. And then in my fourth year of real estate, that was actually last year in 2023, I was like, all right, maybe it's time I start giving back. And I actually created a YouTube channel. So if you guys want to follow me, it's just Andy Coleman on YouTube. I got a second channel now, Andy Coleman Real Estate. And I'll tell you this, I started posting videos on my strategy, which I'll talk about in a second. I'll give you guys all my rundown of my essential framework for my strategy. And I started getting agents agents reaching out to me, and they were like, oh my God, I didn't know you could make that much money and this and that. And they started to try out, my little tips that I was giving. And they were like, oh my God, it worked. I closed a deal here, a deal there, and I was like, wow, like it's not just me. Other agents can actually apply this in their state, in their market, and it works for them as well. And I'll talk about a little bit later how I started to help agents a little bit further, because I'll tell you, I got some agents that are literally making $45,000 per month right now off of my rental strategy. So I'll get into that a little bit later, but I want to answer your second question and my process, right? So what am I actually doing to be able to make $50,000 every single month consistently for years now? What am I doing to do that, right? So I'm doing a very basic strategy. I like to call it my any broker advertise strategy. So it's going to be different in different markets. Here in South Florida, we have something in our MLS called any broker advertise. If it says yes, we're allowed to advertise that property. But here's the thing. If you're in a market where you don't have any broker advertise, that's absolutely fine, right? I do this all the time. A lot of agents do this all the time. You could just ask for permission. As long as you get written permission, it is 100% fine to advertise that rental listing on a platform like, let's say, Facebook Marketplace, right? I always use that one as an example because in my heyday, when I was pushing full time doing this, I was generating 200 free leads per day. Okay. That's thousands of free leads coming in per month. It's a volume game, right? When you're working with renters, you got to do volume because no, you're not going to be making as much as a purchase. I'm making about $2,000 on average commission per deal that I do. And like I said before, I can do up to 30 in a month. That was my best month ever. I would average about 20 or so per month. So it's a volume game, right? You can do 5 rentals, make $10,000 average commission if you're like me. And I'll tell you this right now, it can take you the exact same amount of time or less than working with a buyer or a seller. So that's the beauty of doing rentals is you can stack them up. And as you're helping all of these families and people out, they're going to be referring you to their friends and family. You're going to get a ridiculous amount of referrals because you're talking to so many people. Your database and network is going to grow so lightning quick just by taking properties on your MLS and marketing them with permission from the listing agent. And you could also do this with apartment complexes as well. It's called apartment locating. So there's kind of 2 ways you could do it, right? MLS properties, single families, townhomes, villas, duplexes, and then apartment complexes through leasing offices, right? So there's 2 ways to do this. And there's a couple different strategies that I can break down per different way. And then also you can get rental listings. So technically there's like a 3rd way to do this as well. I'll focus on the first 2 though. So if you basically go in your MLS, right? And you find these rental properties that, look pretty good. Price is okay. Pictures are okay. You could basically market them on Facebook Marketplace as courtesy of the listing brokerage, right? When you get permission, you just got to kind of cite the listing brokerage because, we have, and every state's going to have different guidelines and different rules and regulations. That's what we have to do here in South Florida. And then a tenant will reach out to you and say, hey, I would love to see this property. Is it available? All you have to do is respond to them. And I have a whole entire system. I can't explain it on this podcast, but essentially you want to get them into that property. And if you cannot get them into that property, try to make them a client of yours, right? Set them up in your MLS for other properties. If you're doing apartment complexes, set them up for more apartment complexes. And this way, if that initial property didn't end up working out, because you got to imagine if you get 20 leads for one property, only one of them is actually getting in that place. The other 19 people, it's impossible. They can't get in. So you don't want to lose that lead. You want to still work with them and help them find another rental property. Doing this, that's how I was able to amass $510,000 in commission in my 3rd year of real estate. And that's what I've been averaging ever since then for a couple years now, which is pretty cool. And I'll tell you this right now, right? Any single agent that is struggling right now, it's not even just the renters, right? Because there are some markets out there where no, you're not going to make $2,000 average commission. I'll give you an example, right? Like Orlando, Florida, where it's like 3 hours north of where I am in Palm Beach County. They can't make that much money doing rentals in Orlando. They only make like $300, $400, $500 per rental deal. So what I ended up doing was I charge a transaction fee. That's what I call it, a transaction fee. It actually gets tacked on to my commission. So goes to my brokers and, my brokerage pays that out to me, obviously. So I charge a $300, I call it an EXP. I'm with EXP Realty transaction fee. I'll tack it onto my commission. So if normally I'm making $1,700, I just made $2,000. But if you're in a market like Orlando or or, other markets out there where the commission's a little bit lower. If you're, let's say, making $300 for a rental, you charge the tenant a $300 transaction fee, and now you've just made $600. Now, you might be thinking, well, $600, not that much money. We'll break it down, right? If you get this system down and you master it like I have over the years and tens of thousands of hours of trial and error, you can literally do a deal in 2 or 3 hours. Divide that by $600. You're still making $100, $200 per hour of work that you're doing. What other profession out there you can make that much money? And then if you're getting $2,000 average commission, you're making significantly more per hour. So I always like to say, like think about it from that aspect, right? You're still making a lot per hour. And here's the most beautiful part, which you mentioned before. You can turn your renters into buyers. Yes, you're going to get a ton in a year, 2, 3 years, when the market flips. But even right now, a lot of these renters, believe it or not, 30% of renters right now have the debt to income ratio to qualify for a mortgage, but they don't even know it. They have no earthly clue about this. So some of them are looking for a rental. Some of them are looking for a purchase. Some of them are looking for both. If you capture that lead and you can convince them, hey, this might be a better move to buy a house instead of rent, leave it up to them, of course. This way you will get a buyer right now out of the renter when you're dealing with so many leads that you're going to have so many opportunities to convince these renters to turn into buyers if they want to, of course. And then all of a sudden now you can close 5, 10, 15 purchases in a year on top of the rentals that you're doing. So if you're in a market where you're like, no, it doesn't make sense. I only make $300 a rental or $200 a rental. Well, charge the transaction fee and try to get the renters to turn into buyers. I could almost bet you that in this particular market where we're literally in the worst market since the 2008 crash, if you're going to be working with buyers and sellers right now, literally, if you go and look up the graphs, it'll actually show that we have less homes that are being sold right now since 2008. It's actually less than that as well. So why would you be targeting the buyers and sellers when the odds are stacked against you? Everybody is renting right now. The majority of these people out there that want your help, they're renting. So as a realtor, why not go after the renters? This way you can actually get more buyers out of it because you're dealing with more leads. Me personally, this year alone, right, in 2024, I basically did about, I think it was 100 deals or something like that. And about 10 of those were purchases. I got a few listings, I got a few buyers, and I'm only working real estate part-time. I'm working, I swear to God, I'm only doing real estate 2 to 4 hours per day. That's it. I don't do it full-time anymore. That's why I've probably only made around 300 grand in real estate this year. I do other things, like I coach agents now. I'm writing a book. I just spoke at EXPCon on stage. I do podcasts like this. I have a team of agents now with EXP Realty. I do a lot of things, and I'm still able to close about 100 deals, a bunch of buyers, and I'm barely even trying. So for any other agent out there, I want you to take that as motivation, that if I'm barely putting any effort and able to make this much money, close this many deals, help this many families, convert this many renters into buyers, imagine what you can do if you were doing this full time.
So what do you think is holding people back? What do you think is stopping other realtors from going down this path?
I love that question. There's a couple things. One, it's bad advice. Bad advice from brokers that don't know any better. They're not trying to, screw them up, and they're not trying to do that. They want people to succeed. It's not their fault. They just have it in their mind, kind of like what I explained before when I did my first rental deal where I did 10 showings. I spent all this time and effort, made $800. I didn't see it as a negative, though, and a waste of time. I saw it as a win. And if I can perfect this strategy and get it down to doing one showing, like I mentioned, and working a couple hours, then it will become profitable. And I'll tell you this right now, a lot of brokers, they didn't take that next step. They saw that and were like, oh, no. I tried it once or twice and it took too long, and no, never again, right? They didn't have the mentality, and a lot of agents have the same mentality where they're like, well, let me try to perfect this and let me see what I can do here, because I'll tell you right now, that's a big reason stopping agents is because they get bad advice saying, don't do the renters. It's a waste of your time. You're not going to make any money. Focus on the buyers and sellers. And that kind of mentality and that kind of advice, that brought us to a 90% failure rate and a 9-month gap from a new agent closing their first deal. And to me, that is unacceptable. I would not stand for that when I got my real estate license, and I will not stand for it right now.
Well, there you go, listeners. Fantastic advice. Thank you there for that. So our last question is always the same, because here at Icons, we're not just a podcast, we're the #1 real estate podcast network. And we are passionate about making podcasting accessible to anybody involved in the real estate business. So for you, if you had your own podcast, do you know what you'd call it?
Well, I've done a couple podcast interviews. I don't have my own podcast though. Maybe in the future. I'll tell you this, right? I have a coaching program for real estate agents. I call it Rich with Rentals because it's funny. I got rich off of rentals, and now my agents are getting rich off of rentals. So I might call it
Perfect.
something like, yeah, I might call it something like Rich with Rentals, maybe just like my coaching program.
Perfect. All in alignment. That's what you always want. That's amazing. So for the listeners out there, maybe they're other agents and they would like to know more. How do they reach you?
Yeah, so for anybody listening right now, it's twofold right now. So I actually just created a team with the Realty. I'm bringing on other agents. So if any agent out there is just looking for a change and likes everything that I'm saying and wants to hear more and wants to become part of something a little bit bigger, right? Because I've iconed 4 times with eXp Realty where we get the 16,000 in stock and 100% commission, and I started doing the rev share model. So if any agent is just tired of their brokerage right now and wants to make a difference in this world, start helping out a lot of families and closing more deals and likes everything that I've been talking about, reach out to me and I would love to have you on my team. So you can do that through Instagram. It's the Andy Coleman. You could do it through my YouTube channel, just Andy Coleman, or it's Andy Coleman Real Estate. I got 2 channels now, and just reach out to me. My email will be, I'm sure you'll probably drop my email in the show notes, and just reach out to me. And I'll tell you this right now. If you want a deep dive and to learn every single strategy that I've ever created and mastered in depth, A to Z in order, go to my website, www.richwithrentals.com. And I'm telling you right now, it is a game changer. I have agents that will make $10,000 in their very first month. I have agents that will make $45,000 a couple months in. I'm telling you right now, it'll literally change your entire perception on what it feels like to be a real estate agent.
Thank you so much. Fantastic tips there. Fantastic advice. So guys, get in touch. Thank you for your time today, Andy. It's been an absolute pleasure. And to the listeners, I'll be back next time with the Icons of Real Estate. Bye for now.